Welcome to another Mike Oldfield Discography podcast. This time, it couldn't be more surprising, really, coming from Tres Lunas that we talked about next time, and then the album after the one that we're going to talk about is going to be Light and Shade. So this album we're talking about today is Tubular Bells 2003, which is a huge kind of jump of musical expression, and in overall terms it's just such a surprise. It's a little bit like having Amarok after Earth Moving, and I'm gonna say it just at the beginning so that you don't have to wonder for too long, Tobias. I may actually think now, and people will be surprised, that this may actually be his masterpiece. I can't say both, because the music obviously had been composed and recorded in 1972, 73. But this recording is absolutely amazing on so many levels. And just purely the concept, I guess the reason why he was able to re-record it, the master rights returned to him, that's what people say, but that doesn't really make any sense. No. But he's re-recorded it faithfully, the parts very, very faithfully, you could say, what shall we put a percentage on it, 98%. Or something like that.
No, actually, I think if
99%.
Yeah, if you're looking at purely at the score and not excluding production questions and sounds, I think it's pretty much 99%. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, not really, but let's say 98. But it's like an amazing energy. So the way that he managed to play at that time, it's interesting because. For a lot of Oldfield fans, the later years, the later decades even, right, are problematic. And here I find that Mike has actually sort of proven once again, and in a way that he's never done that before. Yes, Amarok, you kind of that there is all that power in that, and you can hear it. But here with Tubular Bells 2003, it's so physically intense, the way everything is played. And I think it's a combination of, and you say it of the playing and the production. And so I've already given everything away now, so now it's your turn.
I wanted to start with a little historical overview. So he starts his years with Warner with Tubular Bells 2. And he ends his tenure with Warner with Tubular Bells 2003. I don't think that's a coincidence. I really don't. I think it's very important. And I have a quote from an interview he did. And this is, I think, was done with Dark Star magazine. So probably many listeners won't have found it on the web. And he says, the question is, does this represent a special chapter in your life and musical career? And the answer is no. I'm not looking for a new beginning. I feel I've done enough. I'm satisfied with what I've done. The biggest thing was to make Tubular Bells as good as I possibly could, and I won't be able to do that again because it's a very complex piece of music to play. The guitars and bass playing requires a lot of strength, a lot of stamina, and I won't be able to do that in another 20 years. So I think when he ended his time with Virgin, it was also a new beginning, which is actually exactly what Amarok ends with, a new beginning. An ending is a new beginning. So in this case, I think the ending is actually an ending. And what follows are 4 more albums. And I think there's great stuff to be found, but I think these albums are sort of islands. And in a way, something closes here. And I've always seen it, when we were talking about Tubular Bells 2, I always thought, well, couldn't he have just done Tubular Bells 2003 instead? And you said, no, it wouldn't have never had the same impact, which is completely true. But I think Tubular Bells 2 has some things are actually just an effort to make it better, to make the original better again. And to me, it seems like after the Songs of Distant Earth, he he makes these smaller scale albums which focus on specific aspects like the guitar aspect, and Voyager, this folk influence. And it seems like these are studies to arrive at this piece, like to be able to play this and produce this as great as possible and to leave this legacy recording of what he still, after all these years, thinks is his biggest work.
Yeah, and I mean, like, it's kind of fascinating because, like, I would always say, you know, that Tubular Bells is not his best album, but now, or composition, but now, like, getting, like, familiar again with this re-recording, I have to say, like, it really, so first of all, like, so I would say, like, I don't agree with what he says about things, but also at the same time I agree in hindsight. So he seems to have some sort of like, and maybe it's just like intuitive way of judging or understanding his own work even.
Yes.
Where he kind of knew that there was something else in there. You know, and so, like, yeah, there are all these critics that will say he's ripping himself off, which, like, you know, like doing all the other Tubular Bells things and stuff like that. But really, there was something to uncover here, and unveil in a way.
Yes, and actually, if you look at the production, very literally unveil.
Yes, absolutely, and also in terms of like funny that you just found that quote. Yeah, like the physical aspect of playing these parts. It's like it's really, really intense. Like there are certain moments that are obvious, like the beautiful guitar solos at the end of side 2, right?
Yeah.
For example, or like the finale layered bass lines. Things like that, or like a lot of different parts. But then in particular also like one particular instrument, I'm not gonna say it right now, which is kind of like incredible. First and only time I'm hearing him play that particular instrument, and he's using it on Tubular Bells 2003, and he has not used that instrument on the original Tubular Bells. And I wonder if you will know what that is, because it's incredible. And I really wonder what made him decide that. Also, one very particular element in the first 4 minutes of this re-recording is using that instrument, and it sounds very strange, and people don't really know, still don't know what it is. And anyway, like this, the interaction with the technology, also, like you said, yeah, maybe he was preparing for this because he had worked with Ben Darlow for a few albums at this point, and Ben is at least credited as the engineer here. I don't know much about like the recording technology used here. It's certainly obviously recorded digitally and also edited digitally. That's very obvious because it's so incredibly tight, which is kind of like almost beyond human. So it's there. The studio has certainly been used as an instrument, but there's also like the way that the sounds are compressed. There's either like what they call the front end, so while they record, they already recorded through analog compressors, or like to get a certain sound, put that down on what they used to call tape, well, digital recording here in this case. And it has such an immensely detailed and powerful and compressed sound, like what to me now, like even the production choices that are more of the time, like the kinds of reverbs and things like that, and like the more what we would call new age sounding elements, which like obviously in the original we didn't have those because it just didn't exist as a sonic world, let's say. But I believe, Mike, that he had sort of intended it to be a little bit like that, and so like he kind of like made his old dream come true here in a way with this version, and I think it does actually succeed very, gloriously.
I think it's, to me, the fact that it exists is even more important that it succeeds. I think I love interpretation. And I think today, because we live in the age of recording, mastering and remastering has taken over from interpretation as an art, as the dominating art form. Because it does happen, and it has happened, that artists or bands have re-recorded their back catalog. I mean, most notably Taylor Swift recently re-recorded or started re-recording her entire back catalog. But this is something, like, these are the exception, and now mostly we get remasters, and Tubular Bells has been remastered a lot, and I can get into that later. But I think the act of interpretation is so important, and so I think it tells us more about the music, which is why I love this, because I think by listening to this version, I think we get closer to Mike as an artist. And I think we also get closer to Tubular Bells, the piece. But I think if you look at the history of Tubular Bells before 2003, I was surprised that there are very, very few integral interpretations of the piece. I think, to my knowledge, the one I had, which was my first one, like the Gino Marinello Orchestra, which could just as well be just one person in the studio doing it like Mike did. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
That's the only one I know where it's like a full integral performance of Tubular Bells. Mm-hmm. And after 2003, and now especially with the 50th year anniversary, we can see that more ensembles have taken the piece into their repertoire. There are now bands which tour the world performing Tubular Bells faithfully. We've just talked, we're getting coffee. Robin Smith has a version which is expanded a bit. There's an absolutely incredible, I think we were both pretty impressed by it, version by the Royal Philharmonic Orchestra, which also uses a different orchestration, which is not a new arrangement. It's just different, like expanded. It's almost like a fusion between the world of the original and the orchestral Tubular Bells. And it's made the piece live more, I think. And I don't think this, like Tubular Bells, obviously it's not being sold as like in terms of records, it's not as big as it was when it was released. But I feel if you Google it and you look at all the reaction videos and all the comments on it and the analysis and this little YouTube video histories of the piece and how it was made, and still magazines like Mojo coming up with specials like front page cover stories, I think it lives more today than it ever did. And I think that is partly down to this recording. Even though it wasn't that big, I think it sort of gave permission, and it sort of requested, or it sparked this idea, yes, we can do that too. Even though I don't think anyone can do it as incredible as he did here.
Yes.
I just think it's an important thing.
Yeah, and I mean, like if you think of, like, the word interpretation is interesting, because Mike is the composer and the interpreter of his composition, and so what he does with it really has nothing to do with what other people do with it. All right, okay. So what I found interesting is that even though, like over the years when he was playing live, mostly in the 70s and 80s, he played quite a lot of like playful variations of these themes, and like with small bands and blah blah blah. And let that police car or ambulance pass. Yeah, so I found that, like, the spirit of this recording, of this re-recording, has some vibe, or has some energy, sort of like transfer from what it must have felt like to play it live, interestingly enough. So this is so, because it's totally a studio project here, but somehow it seems to be informed obviously by his life, from when he was 18 to like, how old was he here at this time? 2003, 40.
This is the
50 years old. Yeah. Right. Like he was around 50 years old. So so everything he had learned, and experienced with this material, sort of like if you want it or not, like it just kind of found its way into it, and I can feel this energy, this tension, like looking at, remembering, because I was there, Mike performing Taurus 2, for example, where like he had a certain aggression, and he was playing the bass guitar, so like the sound he had there, like he brings all of these things together here on this recording. And I'm looking at the list of instruments here in the cover of the CD, and yeah, everything's listed, and he has a great selection of instruments, which for Tubular Bells, for the original recording, he didn't have that many options. There was only one electric guitar on the whole album.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
And here we have like 4 different electric guitars, electric bass. Very different one from the one that he used back in the day. And just because I don't want to forget about it, it does actually say that it's recorded on a hard disk recorder, a Fairlight Merlin, it's called. The mixing desk was an AMS Neve Capricorn, so an analog desk.
Yeah.
And that's where they have gotten this sound. So they must have like slightly overdriven the channels to get this incredible sound. So it pretty much is, for the time, a first-class digital recording, but combined with analog technology and real instruments, but also lots of even soft synths, so plugins at the time. Yeah. Like in 2003, there were like a few companies doing those, and certainly like Imagic, which then later was bought up by Apple, like Logic, tools from that software. And actual hardware keyboards also. Incredible. I mean,
yes, I can talk a little bit about the production. You mentioned he essentially recreates the instrumentation of the original with a few exceptions. Sally Oldfield is back. But what's her name, who did the vocals with Sally at the time, Richard Branson's girlfriend at the time, Ellie Mundy, is that Ella Mundy?
Alice Mundy.
Alice Mundy, I think, yes. Yeah. So she's not back, probably because she had a successful career in the media world and wasn't available or didn't want to. Essentially, he plays more on this one than he did on the original. So he also there was
there are no guest musicians other than his sister.
Other than his sister, the flute is now a synth. The stringed bass he will probably play himself, or maybe also. Then wherever he wanted a string orchestra in the original, there's now sampled strings. So he actually recreates the string orchestra probably just digitally on the computer, because he felt that if you're working with a string ensemble, you're working with session musicians who don't care about the music as much as you do. And then he also, wherever he couldn't get the instrument from the original, so I think he bought back some of the equipment from the era, and wherever he couldn't, he had sampled a lot of stuff already during the Tubular Bells 2 era, and then he reused those samples, but worked with them in a way to try and recreate the original feeling. So he mentioned in one interview, which I thought was incredible, is that in some passages where he would have used a pick, the sample you couldn't hear the pick on the sample. He added the plectron sound for every note played after everything had been assembled.
Oh, really?
So just to recreate the sensation of someone actually playing the sample, rather than it just being the perfect timbral representation. So a lot of
which part or sample?
I can look it up. Well, if you talk in a second, I can look. I think maybe I have it here. I just thought that if you think about the work simply, which has gone into getting the sound right, is incredible. He also, I think in that same interview, he talks about the bells a lot as well, and how to get the perfect bell. By the way, the bells sound fantastic here as well.
Yes, yeah.
And he talks about that actually in Tubular Bells 2, the bells were a tiny set, but then processed to give like a big sound.
Yeah, I mean it's actually like the list of instruments is very detailed, and it's cool that like where he lists the keyboards, he actually in brackets says what the keyboards were used for, and there are actually 3 keyboards that are particularly listed as being used for bass sounds.
Yeah.
Korg Trinity, the Nord Lead, and Roland JV 2000.
There's six different channels all contributing to the bass sound. And the way he
which section?
At the beginning, it says here.
Yes.
Like this, it's actually a synth bass, and it's a synthesized bass from different sources.
I have something else to say about that too.
Sure, I'm sure. But the bass has been,
that is like the most striking difference here between this album and the original, is that Mike actually plays a fretless bass on most of the sections. And where it's not a synth bass, obviously, and if you pay attention to like even like in the A minor tune section, you can hear him actually like slide on the fretless bass. Like he doesn't play the fretless bass like Jaco Pastorius would, or like where it's like all about that very particular sound or anything. But he's doing like he plays it with such a pitch precision, like it's incredible, and like you hear it all over the record. You just need to start paying attention, and you will hear that it's actually a fretless bass. And most strikingly, actually, in the Caveman section, it's like an incredible performance on the fretless bass guitar. So like if you haven't picked up on that yet, like you need to listen for that. It's also mixed relatively high in the mix, the bass there. And it's just incredible, and I find it like such an odd stylistic choice. Like the fretless bass is an instrument, funnily enough, like in rock music, it was when Tubular Bells was made, it wasn't really popular. It was popularized in the 80s, like obviously in the 70s, late 70s, but then in the 80s in pop music for a certain kind of vibe or certain kind of sound, which was very like soul, maybe more in the direction of soul than rock, obviously, right? But I think it's just such an odd choice, and I feel like this. Well, no, I know that he must have really sat down and practiced with this instrument, like in order to pull that off. So like, but we really don't know what he was up to. Like it's possible that he decided in 1985 to actually start playing fretless bass, and he practiced fretless bass for 15 years, and then suddenly here we get to hear it. We don't know anything about him in that regard, but a lot of these things are totally possible. Like he's always, like called a multi-instrumentalist, and like people just assume that he can just do anything. No, you must practice. You must, like, in order to pull this recording off, even if it's edited, like, or quantized on parts or whatever, like you need to be able to play. There's no other way that this can happen. And the fretless bass, the wall bass, is just the most striking element here. In addition to like the synthesizers, the keyboards that have replaced some of the acoustic parts from the original. So I think and in a way, if you think about that, it's the low end, and it's the sort of like the high end parts, which are which are bracketing the music in a new way.
Yeah, I think to me, so if I ask myself what did he focus on, I think it's clarity, and this also, to me, tells me a little bit more about how he thinks as a musician. After he's recorded Tubular Bells, he instantly gets regrets about the way it sounds. And he writes in Changeling that he feels depressed about how bad it sounds, and this is already, I think, in 1973 when he's doing Hergest Ridge. And this doesn't seem to be like a change in history. I think we know from people around him that he did really mourn the fact that there wasn't more time to do the first section.
Yes.
But then there are all these live recordings from the 80s, and if you listen to the live recordings, I feel like everything is clearer in these live recordings. So for example, when there's the basses section in the first on the A side, which with these deep, ominous sounds, on the live version on Exposed, he actually plays with the guitar on top of it, playing the theme to explain to the listener, look, it's actually the theme again.
Yes.
It's like and I think this wasn't clear to me, but of course when I was listening it to as a young listener, I didn't totally grasp like the incredible thematic variations he uses to create this unified feeling across different episodes. But it seems like with the original, many people still can't hear it, even though they know the piece. Like you will see a lot of people saying, well, it just sounds like a lot of loose episodes, which don't connect.
The people have no idea.
Yeah, but I think he knew that, and I think he, in this one, it's so clear, and you can hear everything. You can hear, like the beginning, to me, the opening 5 minutes are just insane. Because everything is now open. He explodes the arrangements. It's three-dimensional now. You can see every single line. And I think in this case, it really benefits the effect, because the beginning is vital to introduce the material, and then later on you can really see how it unfolds. And to me, this idea of clarity is important. And there's in Changeling, there's a section where he talks about how he, as a listener, already as a kid, he could really see the arrangement, and inside the arrangement he could almost like rotate it in his mind.
Yes.
And so I think if we're looking at him, I think we really, because he mentioned Bach as an influence potentially for the theme, I think he's really thinking more in this lines rather than harmonies, like stacks.
Yes, like polyphonic.
Yeah, polyphonic,
yes.
and I think this becomes so clear. So I think in that sense,
it's misleading that the opening of his first album is sort of like just a modal thing, right? Where you don't really realize that it's polyphony unless you kind of like understand that he does like the rhythmic polyphony in that, where it's like the 15 and he puts the 3 underneath with like the heartbeat kind of thing, and so he's kind of like not consciously, but he's kind of like showing, okay, this is kind of like what I'm doing it more loosely than a classical composer would hear. But then as the piece progresses, you can hear that he, like the famous moments where like the A minor tune, which has the, well, not the A minor, it's before the A minor tune, I think, or whatever. I don't know really but it's the A minor tune where the bass guitar plays the melody, the beautiful melody in minor, on the bass.
Yeah.
So and those are just like very obvious kind of like ways, even for the layman, let's say, to maybe understand what's going on, that he's just really like approaching it from this polyphony standpoint. And yes, he was young, he was inexperienced, and yes, it is, he had a few different vibes and ideas that were put together. And remember that we said that like the most blues record like he's ever done is Tubular Bells. It has like really bluesy vibe about it in places, like an early 70s British blues kind of vibe. And that is something that like later on we don't hear it that much anymore. And also we don't hear it that much anymore in this version. Like even though it's still there, he's still, but it's just much more like become his own, and the construction architecture of the whole production is more himself than using the sounds that he could get in the early 70s.
Yeah, I mean, to a degree, this is not a historical recording. When he says I recorded it faithfully, he just means I recorded the parts faithfully. There are no, I would have to think about it, but there's no real embellishments. There's one thing he adds, which is the drums at in the final.
Yes.
Yeah. So
Yes.
short stretches, like a few bars of drums.
Yes.
But other than that, there's no embellishments.
I mean, no embellishments. It's funny, like that you call it that way, because like it's the ornamentation and the embellishments. The ornamentation of the parts is actually copied even here. So it's like down to the ornamentation is. So it's not just say the written part, it's also like what you do when you play it, and he's copied that even. And I think we pretty much know that he has taken the original recording and mapped it out in Logic or whatever it was, and then recorded along with the original to really hit the spot, let's say.
Yeah, but I was going to say that, for example, the bass section, and there's another, which is the other one, but there's two sections where it, like on the new recording, it's like metal.
Yeah, he's playing the power chords and like a...
But metal didn't exist in 1973. So if you, like when I heard them as a kid, I instantly thought of metal, but metal as metal didn't exist.
Oh, it did exist. It was like it was sort of like in a way, I mean, metal for me, what they call is like it's Black Sabbath and King Crimson, like 1969. But I know what you mean. Yeah, it sounds very, very, very heavy, kind of like in a way that like even the heavy metal bands didn't sound heavy in the 70s.
This is it's more idiomatic.
Yes. And this section in particular really does sound heavy in a way that later, like would be like where bands would tune down their instruments and things like that. Yes, I agree about that.
And now he plays it more like that. He plays it more, even heavier, even.
Yeah, he does
crushing.
Crushing, and he does the muted strumming on the guitar with the power chords and things that are really. He didn't do that at the time.
Which are like among fans contentious, but I think that's what makes it interesting. Like that places it again, not just in the past, but in another point, because I think it's just honest.
Yeah, also like this, for me as a musician and like as a analyst, let's say, of Mike's path, like as a music producer and player, there's only really one album where he used the guitar in a way that he's using it in this section on Tubular Bells 2003, like with the muted strumming in between the notes, like the percussive strumming, and that's on the 5 Miles Out album. So really, like there are like these interesting kind of reference points where he does something for one album, then never does it again for 20 years, and then he does use this kind of element again in the re-recording of something that I just find it fascinating to kind of like see these relationships and developments and also like this is interesting, like the amps used Fender Twin Reverb, which I think is the amp he used for, or kind of amp that he used for the original recording of Tubular Bells. But he also uses the Mesa Boogie amplifier, which he most famously used in the 80s, in the early 80s. So you can see like technologically, he's also, sorry that I'm going on about this, like, then there was the sound world, guitar sound world that he discovered first with Earth Moving, and then he used it a lot in Amarok and Heavens Open, and also going through Tubular Bells 2 also, and a little bit even in Songs of Distant Earth. Well, actually quite a bit of it. Like it's highly compressed, like Strat with and also like the I can't even explain. We would have to actually play samples so you know what I'm talking about. But he discovered something really particular around that time, which here in this recording he's not doing it at all. Like, so there's like a almost 10-year period where he's kind of like found a particular guitar style, and here he's not doing it. Not a single sound is like that.
Yeah.
Right. So, but if we look at, say, if we look at like Voyager, for example, as a cutoff point, like between Songs of Distant Earth and Voyager, like Voyager, yes, he does have like the Voyager guitar sounds here. We know because it's listed that he plays the PRS McCarthy semi-acoustic. That's the guitar we hear on this recording a lot. You know, so it's anyway. Like I find this interesting because like we're sitting here in my studio in Berlin, and at my feet is a pedal board called an effects pedal called Boss GT5.
Yeah.
Which is from 1995, I think. And I've used it for a couple years, and I have just reused it for a recording. So this is now like this. How I imagine that this maybe goes. That like you have like a storage with instruments, you know, and at some point, like you say, okay, well, I'm going to take this. So what may fit this project, or somehow you want to kind of like get re-inspired by a piece of gear, and that's also how it happens that like some options are based sometimes not part of the arsenal, let's say, of what one is using for it. Like, so he's not drawing from all of his options here, but they're very particularly picked for this project.
It's definitely what I find interesting is that he doesn't hoard like his equipment throughout the years. He sells stuff, and I think in general, I think he slims down his studio. But then for specific projects, he rebuys the same gear back again. So there's it seems to be very clear to him what he wants and what is important. For example, how many of his guitars does he still have? I don't know.
He sold quite a few in
pretty sure,
like 20 years ago, I think. But anyway, like, so the Fender Telecaster, the 1965, that's the one he used on the original. He's playing it here. But then he's added the Pink Strat, which he only started using in, I can't remember now, 84, 83, 84. I mean, 85, I think, is the first time we see it in Pictures in the Dark, I think, is where we first see that guitar.
You know this?
Maybe, I don't know. No, maybe it's already in Moonlight Shadow videos or something like that. I don't know. Anyway, yes, I mean, like, what do you think about, like, the way the music, like, emotionally, let's say, translate? Does it hit you differently? Is it, what is it for you?
Yes, it's very different. So I think, for me, as I said, I'm really glad both versions exist precisely because they're different. I don't think this is, as I said, I don't think it's a historical recording. It is faithful and manages to be completely different as well. So the first one, I agree that there's probably, the way it came into being was probably through things happening in the moment, and some of it works and some of it doesn't, but as a whole, Tubular Bells 1973 shouldn't work, but it miraculously does. What I love about the first one is, it starts off almost too quiet. And when we did the episode about the first one, I said the bass is too quiet. Now, funnily enough, I think that's what makes it great. I think it's almost too quiet, but it grows in volume as the piece progresses, and it draws you in. And I think people are always just talking about the A side. Well, I always loved the B side, particularly. So I think the A side of this, I think we should get into the details a bit, but I think the A side of this is amazing, and it has a better flow. It flows together better than I think the original does. It has a fuller, richer sound, which is good. And I like the transparency. Not sure about the finale, but I mean, the finale of the first one was also not perfect, whatever perfect means. I do think that the second side, which I always loved in the original, is I love the original better in that respect. I think there's some sort of, I mean, to me, if you ask me about the emotional thing, is this one was recorded, as he's admitted himself, sort of in between doing other things. He wanted to enjoy life. He was reading. He was playing, I don't know, his maybe guitar. I think he was also doing he was just enjoying life, and in between he recorded this. So it was the exact opposite of how the first one was recorded. And I think the B-side of the first one, I don't know, there's something, this melancholic feeling feels, I can still today relate to it more in the original. I think the original has, and especially because it's so ghost-like. There's something otherworldly about the opening, especially of the first side and the ending, which this one doesn't quite capture to me.
Yeah, I agree, obviously. Like, and there's no question about, I don't need to compare the two, right? For me, it's like, I just even don't do that. I just look for what do I enjoy here, what do I enjoy there. So I enjoy both just as much, and I would have a hard time really even describing. But let me try here. So first of all, I think that both part one and part two are absolutely incredible here. The elements that are new, right? Like I had this insight yesterday, which kind of like pretty much fits in with what I was going to say, is like we need to be able to kind of like differentiate between things that sound unfamiliar to us or that are unfamiliar to us and things that are bad for us. Right? Just because something is unfamiliar doesn't mean it's bad. Right? And I think this is sort of like what's happening here, and something that Mike was always very good at, sort of introducing like new like challenges. Like for the listener, and challenges, then you would think, oh, what is he doing, something stupid like the saxophone on Tres Lunas? Yeah, I mean, like now, since we've talked about it, I'm enjoying it more. Like actually, even the saxophone thing, right? It doesn't distract me as much anymore. But like here, he doesn't do this. He doesn't make any mistakes in that regard. Like he doesn't do anything that goes over the top. So like, yes, the digital keyboards and like the digital huge reverb and things like that, it's cool, it works. And so what I particularly like is the tightness of the performance. So, and that's where the finale is just like incredible. Like it actually grooves in a way where the original has more tension. And it's on the edge in terms of like, so it's it has more of a mood. So I agree, atmosphere, right? Where the 2003 version is just groovy as hell. Like even when there's no drums, like we're not talking about the drums at the end. So it's really so tight and so energetic that it makes you groove and dance along with it. Like my body, not my feet, but my body moves along with it, right? And it's really that's why I like this finale on this version, part two, on part one, and so part two is kind of striking in the sense that he recreated and like replayed all of the parts in such a beautiful way that everything, as you said, is so transparent and shines, and it has the piece actually feels peaceful here, where in the original it is a little bit more tense, right? Piece is like the second part of part two, right? So like in a way, I think like if he set out to like make a version that is better, let's not just consider the sound or things like, but maybe in what he originally sort of like wanted to convey, right? And if this peace section was meant to be peaceful, like, and not sad, because like really like on the original Tubular Bells, that section you could also say, oh, this is a sad melody, right? Not necessarily peaceful, but he managed to introduce that. So, and this is what I find fascinating. And I love the bagpipes guitars. I like that he reprised the version like with the acoustic guitar in the middle. So it's like the Mike Oldfield's theme, which was released as a single. Like he reprised a little bit of that sound in this. Like the massiveness of all the layered guitars and things like that. It's just so great. And then like, and this is like one, I remember this was one of the big talking points at the time, is like there's no real drummer here. So he's programmed the drums, and he programmed the drums just like, what was his name? Steve Broad?
Yep.
Or yeah, was it Steve?
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's Brafman Broad now.
yes. Played on the original, and it's like reprogrammed, like just down to the single hit, right? It's,
Yep.
I think, it's, and it says that it's Boss Dr. Rhythm. It's yeah, for the samples. It's possible.
For the samples,
Quite possible that those are the samples.
Yeah.
I don't know, but it's really done super well, and like the groove. Like if you say, okay, this is not a real player, but it just is sort of so cool.
Yeah, I couldn't hear it. I mean, I think it's
It's just so incredible, and also his other, like I said, his fretless bass playing in that section in particular, the caveman section, is just outstanding, you know. And the ambient guitars, come on, although ambient guitars, I was at I can't remember, in Quebec, Canada, I was at a company that does hi-fi systems, and we were in a big listening room, and we they asked me like pick something to listen to in this room, and I picked ambient guitars from Tubular Bells 2003, and just absolutely incredible, glorious piece of music. I mean, this whole recording to check your hi-fi system also. Like,
yeah, I think if you ask it that way, I think for me, it hits a few spots from my sound fetishes. I just think it, not the overall impression, but like individual sounds. I love them. I like the opening section. There's this tender melody which also rises from the A minor theme at some point, and it's just beautiful. It builds like there's the orchestral version which I mentioned before with the Royal Philharmonic. It builds sort of because of each they're working out this cog-like thing more. But here it's more because of the sounds. So he's working with sound as a thematic element. It brings, like, it drives the piece. And there are at other moments there's sort of almost a hi-hat like, or something like a digital shaker, and it's really pristine, and it's like shimmering, like metal shimmering, and it's like, that is incredible.
He put like this kind of sheen also into the reverbs and things that were simply not possible in the 70s. Also, like what I find, and this may also be something that contributes to people saying that it's just a few pieces of music cut together, edited together, which it's true, because like they had to do that in the 70s. They had no way to play the transition between the sections. Like, but here, because he had the whole thing laid out in front of him, like he could make sure that the notes blend and sustain over from the border points, let's say, between the sections. So it really feels much more like a whole flow than the original. So just because of technical reasons, right? They didn't have to splice everything together, right? Like, yes, there's digital splicing here, but like you have the visual, you see it on screen, like you have a much more hands-on way to actually make the transitions work. And I think that's very striking here, and it also sounds more unified because of that. Because there's like there's a sonic theme across the whole two sides, which, yes, in the original, more spliced together for sure, right? Just even technologically. And so there I see, like when Mike says, okay, like now this is the time, I have the technology, I have the energy, I have the motivation to redo this. And he does it, and it's great. And like the one thing that I read is that like the recording, apparently somebody said online, started with the Glockenspiel at the beginning, and ended with him laying down the vocals on the caveman section. That's what I've read. Okay. So, but anyway, like the vocals on the caveman section, those could be like the potential culprits also for is good or bad, really. And I think the way he did it here actually is beautiful. Like, and it works. He draws from the original, but he doesn't just redo the original. Like, he uses like, and I think it's super cool.
That was always going to be a hard section to redo.
Yes. I mean, if you look at like the way he did it in Tubular Bells 2, which is sort of like a more comical approach, because he was aware of how difficult it's going to be to make something. So he kind of like pushed it to an extreme there and went over. Like, but here he stays true to the original vibe. He adds some other kinds of grunts, higher voices as well. Like, and it's pretty. To me, it works incredibly well. I love it.
It's not. I think the fact that it's not bad alone is already remarkable.
It's already a win. Yeah. Of course. Yeah.
I mean, that one, for example, even on the otherwise very impressive Royal Philharmonic one, that's probably not like, I don't know. Maybe it should have been cut rather than done that way.
You know, the way that Mike did it when he did that one performance with Eberhard Schöner.
I don't know that one.
In 1982, he did a solo version of just orchestra and Mike on electric. You don't know that? Come on.
You may have
it's one of the
them.
most iconic performances of his. So it's just him with his SG guitar and a microphone, and he plays the orchestra plays the accompaniment, and Mike plays the melody. So just like in the orchestral version, right? So or on exposed, he plays that, and then it comes to the chord chunks after that section, like he does just flow or flow. Yeah, just and so he does like this. You have to see that. It gives me goosebumps thinking about it. It's like it's an incredible version where you see like he's it's like rearranging it by actually playing the because like this is, people don't realize that what the caveman is singing is actually a melody. It's just so hidden, like because of the sound, but it's an actual melody, and. I can't remember now what I was going for originally, but it's an absolute win here to me.
It's him, by the way. If you're listening to this and wondering, it's there's a female voice and a male voice. It's both him. The female voice, I think, is a sort of a preset used to feminize his voice. And it's edited from different recordings, so it's not one line, but it's edited together.
No, of course it's edited together. I mean, just like the whole thing, right? Like I would say, and that's part of the beauty of how studio technology evolved over the years. That the studio used to be a creative space for sound. And then it evolved into also becoming a creative space where you could create performances, where you can, obviously they did tape splicing and things also much like very, very early on in recording history, let's say. But on the digital medium, it's just so much easier. And like the question, like I say so much easier, but I wasn't there. I don't know to which extent they were actually fixing things, or if they just used the fact that in the digital medium you can record 1,000 takes if you want and pick the best one, right? So I don't know, but it's clearly the studio is used in a way that these performances are literally perfect, which is what he set out to do. Is that a good thing? Is that a bad thing? I don't care what people say. Like, there are always people who always want to. The only reason why some people are in this world is because they want to say something negative. They want to say what they don't like. I think I like this. I like this a lot, and it's about enjoying life and what people give us, right? And I think this is just an incredible recording, and I would actually say, in terms of like an overall package, composition, performance, production, Tubular Bells 2003 is just one of the highlights of Mike Oldfield's career.
Yeah, to me too. I should also say that it wasn't possible. Like even if he had wanted to, it would never have been possible to use the master tapes and create a perfect version by remixing it. I mean, he tried that later on.
He did that quite a few times. Yeah.
I mean, I have. Maybe I'll leave that for another time. But I have listened to most of the remasters which have been done by other people before this, and some of them are very nice. But the commercially available CD is not very nice. I think it's really jarring and not a good transfer of the original vinyl.
Which one?
So that's.
Oh, you mean the?
Yeah. So this is the. I'm just holding them up now, but this is the first CD version, which has been in print like almost for like 20 years or something.
83.
And then
this version is from 83.
From 83, but that's just the present. This is probably really certain, like actually one of the very first transfers.
Yeah.
Then there is. This is actually a cool package. I don't know if you've ever seen it. 25th anniversary.
I have a few copies of that.
That's cool because it has a very nice booklet with some things in there which contradict the narrative. I'm not sure which one to believe here. There was also a Super Audio CD version done in the 2000s. And about that one, Paul Newell said that when they did it, the problem was that they wanted to make use of the Super Audio CD medium to get a better recording, but because the original was inherently so problematic in terms of tuning and timing, once you actually increase the quality and you create a 5.1 mix as well, you actually expose the mistakes even more. So I think that was the issue, is that if he had just gone back and remastered it, you actually make it worse in a way. Because the original, for like a magic reason, sounded incredible because they took the right decisions in the moment when they were mixing it, which I think he talks about in Changeling they did with like 4 people, like 8 hands on the mixing board and live.
Yes.
So when David Coston did the 50th anniversary, which is this one here,
yes,
which is not on the CD, bizarrely, so the CD has the original mix again, just a little bit noise reduced.
Mm-hmm.
But it's online. I think it's very good. You have the 5.1 he did. I'm not sure. You can maybe talk about that one at some point. But when David Coston did it, he had to do all the effects again and recreate the effects because they were not on the master tape.
Yes.
So I'm not sure why what really interests me is what you think why Mike went back and did the remaster, which is this one in 2009. But he actually did a remix.
Why he did it, I don't know. Like, there's always like the thing about it could be that the record company wanted something to sell, or it's the birthday, or maybe he was actually like interested in the challenge of seeing like what can he do. Is like, again, like if it's part of his career was always technology driven. So he says, oh, it's 10 years later. Let's see, do we have a way to, and you know, like, but I think the whole point of this, you said it at the beginning of what you just said, is that like the things in a musical mix, in a musical production, the elements, they come together in the mix. And it's not about mistakes, it's about interaction of the elements, the interaction of the sound. So, you know, some people, they are going like for, let's say, pristine clarity, for example, like, which would basically mean that all the elements are not interacting.
Yep.
Like if you had like no element interacting, you would have perfect clarity.
Yes.
You would think, right? But that's not how it works.
Yeah. Or at least that's not what.
So that's why, like, people in the history of recorded music discovered that dynamic compression, so like making sure that the sound is not as chaotic in volume, in level, right? Like in the smallest details, on the millisecond level, right?
Yeah.
Like, is actually making things clearer. So making things less real
Yeah.
makes it sound more real. Yeah, in the recorded medium. And this is something that, yes, can be to your advantage, like with Tubular Bells. You end up with something that sounds cool. It's not perfect, but it sounds cool because of the interaction of the parts, of all of the moving parts.
Yeah.
And I find that here, even though it's done with much more control, he still manages to kind of like capture this kind of glue. I think that's all the word used in music production, like glue, how everything kind of like comes together in this beautiful way and the sounds interact with each other. They are not totally separate. And that's what makes this recording, and like actually like most of, and I would say all of Mike Oldfield's music, so interesting that he was always open to find the magic also in the mix.
Yeah.
Which I have to admit, later, when he got tired of doing these remixes and things, like he was not paying that attention to that so much anymore. Right? Like I think like maybe I still really love the new versions of Hergest Ridge he did in 2010, I think it was. I think that was like, and that's only 7 years after the album we're talking about today, right? So that was still good, but then like with even just a year later or whatever, I can't remember now when they did sorry, I don't have the timeline right here, but like when we did the Crisis 5.1, for example, like you could tell that he didn't have any interest in sort of like blending things in the way that would actually make the music come alive the way it should.
Who knows, it could also be a hearing thing. I mean, it's not uncommon for artists in their like 50s, 60s or 70s to prefer less dynamic mixes, for example.
Or more dynamic, like in this case, like the things are less produced. But anyway, like it's not about that. But just kind of like saying that the care and the decision, like into the glue, into the vibe that the glue generates, sort of like that's something that at some point you could tell that it was not really a main concern for him anymore, right? And maybe it never was. Maybe it just happened because of the technology available at the time.
Yeah.
Also possible, right? But anyway, like since this is not, like you to say, yes, he did this in isolation, but in isolation with an engineer. And so the engineer always, like even if Mike didn't know, like Mike maybe said, oh, make the sound like that. And then the engineer just turned the knob a little bit, make it more compressed or whatever. You don't know like how much, in the studio, this is kind of like funny, maybe not a lot of people know this, like a lot of like deception happens.
Yes.
Like where the engineer, would lie to the artist in order to get a better performance. Or, like you would use tricks in the studio to, and it's actually part of what an engineer / producer needs to do is to sometimes override the opinion of the artist in order to capture the best thing. And so since those two guys, like it says assistant recording engineer or something like that, or recording assistant and engineer. So Ben must have done quite a bit here. I really think so, and it's I think the result is just stunning.
Yeah, maybe to add to what you just said, that's super important to me as well, is that this idea of it being better or worse, I mean, I do compare, and I think comparing is part of the fun, but it's just experiences. Like both are unique experiences in their own right. And I think to me, if you go in and say, this is worse, this is better, this is worse, this is better, that's actually saying something positive about the original composition. I think if a composition inspires people to keep trying to perform it in a way that it gets perfect, or more to their liking, I think that says something very powerful about the composition, because it means you have an inner urge to express yourself through something where you disagree with and love something, and it's sort of a strange blend.
And you know, it's funny that Mike did say that very early on in interviews already, when people asked him what is his favorite piece of music, and he mentioned that Sibelius.
Yeah, the Fifth Symphony.
Yeah, and he said, yes, I love this piece, but only that one recording. He didn't like the other recordings.
That's crazy, right?
So yeah, it's crazy, but it's absolutely, I totally understand what he means. And so you can see, like, if you're a young person and you're aware of the fact that performance recording, blah, 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 really makes the music maybe more so than what it actually is.
Yeah.
This is also like why, you know, like later on in some later interview, he said, and I still think about that as something mind-bending in a way. He says, like, it just doesn't matter which notes I play them, and, you know, he can play anything. And it's true, because I would say it's the same for me as a player. I've come to that place where I can do that too, where, you know, like it is if you have a sort of like understanding of what music is, the ineffable thing about music, you can't really say that and how you understand it, let's say, or how you can live it and how you can bring it to life, but you can, right? And this is something that Mike seems to have been aware of that at a very young age, and like, again, maybe never really thought about it, but it's something where you can clearly see that in his lifetime he was able to tap into that like very deeply at some points, and sometimes maybe not that deep, but like always there was like this understanding of where the magic is, you know, the magic lies.
Yes.
And the magic is just not always the same. Like the magic could be like somebody sawing a person in two pieces, or, you know, or pulling a rabbit out of a hat, you know, like or a card trick, or like, it's not like magic can be in so many different forms, you know, and like for me, the surprise to have this album between Tres Lunas and Light and Shade, it's just like a miracle. If you would listen to these three albums and nobody knows anything about Mike Oldfield, right? But still somebody who knows about music, let's say, they would say like, how is this even possible in this chronology to have this? And you know, I've listened to Tres Lunas and also Light and Shade in the last week or so, and like now, like talking about Tubular Bells 3 already shines a different light on those two albums as well.
Yeah,
in a positive way, right? So Tobias, I want to say I'm like so grateful that we do this, which like I think for me it's a research project, more so than anything else, rediscovering this music and talking about it this way. Thank you.
Yeah, no, it's like the same for me. It's really amazing. It's like this was the highlight of my week. Like looking forward to this. I was maybe one historical thing also I just remembered is. I'm not quite sure why exactly he recorded it now. There has to, maybe these were deeper, like life decisions he made for himself, as I alluded to in the beginning. Maybe he was really entering a new phase where he said, I've sort of created a situation where the music can sustain me and I can just do as much music as I want to without having to worry about putting out another album. But it is often, like the story, the way it's often told is that he withheld Tubular Bells 2 from Richard Branson because of their animosities and everything. But there was something I found in the Paul Newell interview, also for Darkstar magazine, where he says when they were doing the space movie project, so that Virgin didn't want to put it out because they were afraid there was too much Tubular Bells They did sort of in the Mike Oldfield concert. They did not want to have him associated just with Tubular Bells because they wanted to keep selling new records.
Yes.
And I found that very interesting. That maybe we would have gotten Tubular Bells 2003 in the 80s if the situation had been more amicable. If they had maybe just gotten down to sit together and talk about this, maybe we would have had the Tubular Bells 1985 or earlier. But it wasn't on the table for political reasons, personal reasons. And then when he went to Warner, as you said, the Tubular Bells, because actually the way he talked about it at the end of his Virgin time, this Tubular Bells 2 was going to be Tubular Bells 3 and 4. So it was going to be a continuation rather than the sort of fusion. There was a lot of talk in the image itself. But I think what you when with the Tubular Bells, you correctly said this project was going to make him and the record company give him more attention, make more money. So it went to be Tubular Bells 2. And then I think it wasn't possible to do the re-recording for some time. I just think it's interesting, but the way it went, maybe it was all for the better. Because
I mean, like, there's something what we shouldn't forget. There was, in 1989, he did a re-recording of Tubular Bells, which was just played once at a radio show. Like, not played live, but like, played. It was the same radio, I can't remember the name, it was the same show where they played Innocent and Earth Moving. Like, it was the Earth Moving version without the saxophone solo, but with the guitar solo. So you can find, like, so it was, I can't remember now the name of it, was a British radio show. So the idea of, like, re-recording it, I'm sure it's been with him all over, like, those decades, 3 decades. Yeah. And he must have started it a few times, and, and here it comes to fruition, and, like, it's really, really, really incredibly surprising. I really, like, I always say it, like, I recommend for people to listen to this with an open heart and listen to it just not just in one way. So listen to it, like, on your hi-fi system, listen to it on headphones, wherever, like, just to kind of, like, get accustomed to the thing as something that where you don't have any prejudice going into it. And I think it's, like, it's just fantastic. Yeah.
I don't know how many details we want to talk about, but there's one thing I wanted to talk about, which is the MC.
Yes, of course.
Because John Cleese is not the first other MC, because there have been live MCs lots of times. Maggie Riley has been the MC on quite a few of the live dates, and I actually think she did a great live MC. John Cleese wasn't the first choice. Of the two, which Mike had in mind, is probably the better one, although you never know. But I'm just curious what you think about the role of the MC, because the choice says something. Like Viv Stanshall he was there, in 1973. So that motivated, I think, his choice.
But also, like, I remember that Tom Newman was saying that Mike was just so nervous about asking Viv Stanshall to do it. Like, so, like, Viv Stanshall must have had, like, difficult for me to know, must have had some sort of aura about him at the time, as sort of like a very special English character. Yeah. And John Cleese completely is in that same league, and, like, John Cleese could have been the MC in the 73 version already. So, like, in a way, this is just like Viv Stanshall had already died at this point, I think. It wasn't available. So getting John Cleese was sort of like the closest you could be to what could have happened also in 73. So I think it's a good choice. Like, I don't have to say that I particularly like his voice or whatever, and he's also, like, not trying, like, he's certainly in character. Yes. Like, I don't know how John Cleese speaks privately, But he's
a good
sort of
question.
he's in character for sure here, and I don't mind it. I like it. It's fine. Like there's nothing wrong with it. Again, like as you said about the caveman voice, just the fact that it doesn't suck is a big win. You know, like so.
This is the way you mentioned before. Just because something is different doesn't make it bad. The first response wasn't like super positive, but when you hear it for the second and third time, and it's a recording, it's supposed to be listened to for the second and third time. It's not a live performance.
It's not a live performance, no.
But I think it made me reappreciate Viv Stanshall as well. The fact that we now can set it against something else. I think they do it differently. And there's more of a theater component here. And I like it. I told you before, what's his name on the 50th version, which a lot of people really hate. He's also an actor. That's super over the top. I think Mike probably would have liked that one. I think makes me laugh.
Yes.
And he actually, Mike explicitly said he didn't want this version of Tubular Bells to be as serious. He wanted it to be more open.
Yes.
More free.
Yeah,
and flowing and
and less sort of like this old teenage angst.
Yes.
Kind of version, and it absolutely succeeds. So in the airiness of the sound of the whole thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The double mandolin. Do you think that's a mistake?
No, it's not a mistake.
I don't think so either. But everyone thinks it's a mistake. I think it's
people say it's a mistake.
But I think
it doesn't make it. People have no idea. Like even to say something like that, it's not a mistake.
Why do you think it's in? For me, it's always felt like it's almost an aside. It's like the story is apparently what I've heard from the studio is that Cleese really loved doing the MC.
Yeah.
And the mandolin especially, which is obviously like the most expressive part of his announcements. And I think the double one was supposed to indicate that they had so much fun with this particular section.
I don't know. Like it's just, it's kind of like there's no point even of discussing this. I think it's just what they decided to do. And it sounds to me like, remember, like, okay, so if you want a theory, here's a theory. The sailor's hornpipe, the version that was first released on the boxed version, which is the one where it's played live.
Yeah.
Like I think not live, but like from the speakers in the control room of the studio. It's played very loud in the building at the Manor, and Viv Stanshall is sort of apparently like walking through the house, if he really does that, or if he's just had microphone in his hand and he's just improvising, playing this as a radio play, right? So he's kind of like, you hear his feet moving, and so he may be just walking around in a room, looking at things and talking about them, and you have sort of like the vibe of somebody moving in a space, right? And so this is something that, like with what you call the mistake, where John Cleese, or what they call the mistake, is just like you hear the word again, but his mouth is not as close to the microphone.
Yes, that's what I also thought.
So, and that's what it is. So it's just like moving in with, like the voice moving within a space. That's what it is. And it just only reminds me of that Viv Stanshall thing at the end with the sailor's hornpipe, because it's the sort of like the same effect that you hear the words, the room sound change as the voice talks, right? And even though it's just two words here in the John Cleese mandolin bit, it has that vibe of changing room sound, and that's what people would call a mistake. No, it's not a mistake. I mean, there are mistakes in some of Mike's recordings, right? Like mistakes, not the kind of mistake that you would have in Tubular Bells. I'm not talking about those things, not about like hearing him breathe or you know, a note cutting off, or No, not beating a tune. That's not what I'm talking about. There are actual technical mistakes that happened sometimes that maybe they didn't find a way to fix it or that they didn't hear. It's totally normal. It's not the case with Tubular Bells 2003 for sure.
Yeah.
It is every single note has been has been looked at under the magnifying glass.
You can also hear him breathe in some passages here. It's quite
absolutely
nice.
And I think it's actually it's part of it.
Yeah.
Absolutely is part of it. And like I say, like I'm just repeating myself, the most striking element here of the re-recording is that the sections, how the sections are connected.
Mm-hmm.
Like they didn't have to record individual songs, let's say, or pieces, and then splice them together. Here it's more like it has more of that flow of one thing. Because of the digital technology, there was no limitation of tape length and stuff like that. So, yeah. So it sounds like you may have some more details.
The question is whether we actually need to go into everything. Let me just look. I mean, we've talked about, as always, a lot.
And I mean, there's always so much more. Like we haven't really gone into any like really musical, or not many musical details. But then, yes, the composition is exactly the same. We could talk about like where you say the flute was replaced with a synthesized flute. We could talk about those sections, how those work, how that kind of like translates into this new medium. But I really think it's something that just needs to be experienced.
Yeah.
It's,
there's a fun fact, we were talking about MC, on the single version of the bell, it's actually Viv Stanshall, for Tubular Bells 2, sorry.
Yes, there's
it's actually Viv Stanshall, and
yeah.
he announces Tubular Bells with, and yet again Tubular Bells. I just thought it was interesting that he actually reprises his role, while on the album it's just Tubular Bells.
You mean on the Alan Rickman version?
Yes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And on Tubular Bells 2003, it's just faithfully as the original.
Yes.
There was, maybe we'll keep that for other episodes, but I think what helps, what I would think is really cool is that some of the increased clarity of the recording made me see that some sections announce moments which appear on later albums. So on the bagpipe guitars, there's a section which I think could be a precursor to an Omadon piece, these guitar arpeggios.
Yes, of course. Yeah.
Never thought of that because in the original
really?
it's more obscured.
Yeah. It's that layered guitars. Yeah.
But suddenly you hear it and I think, wow, it's it's almost.
Yeah, it's much more obvious, right? Than to kind of like.
Did you ever, by the way, hear the because you mentioned the boxed version, which is of course also a different take on the original. Did you ever hear that in quad? Did you ever have a quad setup?
I think I did hear a quad, like a translation to a 5.1 system. Yes, I did.
Would love to. I don't know if you have any memory, because I would love to hear that, because I think it could be great, but on stereo.
I think it was included in the 50th anniversary box.
The down. Oh yes, I'm sure.
Yeah, the quadraphonic version. Yes.
I have boxed, of course, on vinyl, but it's I don't have a way of playing it.
No, I remember in the 90s there were just a lot of attempts to kind of like in fan circles to distribute like versions of the quad mixes too.
I'm just going through some of this. There's really interesting stuff to be found also about the different takes on the remastering.
Yeah. So just like for you listeners, like you have no idea, but Tobias really has like 20 pages of text that he's written or copied and pasted. I don't know, like if you've written all of this yourself.
It's most of it is my own writing. Yeah.
Yes, like he has like notes for days.
Yes, it's actually a book in
book in
note form.
Okay.
Oh yes, maybe one thing that's maybe a good thing to close it is, I just think the piece. So when you said to you it's a masterpiece, I think it's a masterpiece. But I also think there's sections where I think, well, not sure about this. But Tom Newman has gone on record also saying, well, there were actually things on the original demo which were really cool and which we didn't get to use on the final version. And there's also a rough mix, which I think was on the expanded deluxe edition, which came out in 2009, which also didn't make it, and which sounded a bit different, where the mix was different. So every recording is a decision of a particular moment. And that's what makes it great. It's not that like when you listen back to it 10 years later, everything is perfect. It just, there's a moment captured, and I think that's what's beautiful. And I think it's with Tubular Bells more than with anything else in his repertoire. And that's why, to me, I keep coming back to it, because there's always something to discover. It depends on me how I...
Absolutely, and I think you've said something which kind of like wraps up very nicely, like what I've been thinking for such a long time, like about the relationship between artist and listener. Like you need to respect the decision that the artist makes. Like there's no way, there's no need to moan about decisions. Like it is what it is. And if you are a fan of, say, Mike Oldfield, you need to go into it yes, obviously, maybe it's going to challenge you, maybe it's going to be new for you, maybe it's not going to work the way that you think, but it's this guy who did it. So like you're a fan of the person, well, not of the person as a person, but of the artist, right? Or the like you say, the decisions that are being made. That's what you are ideally a fan of, and that's what you're exposing yourself to, and where you say, let's see what that does to me. And
dislike is also a strong emotion. It tells you something about yourself.
Absolutely. And like in Mike's music, I think that, like, even as a child, I realized, okay, like with Mike's music, there's two camps. There's the camp of people that like it because it makes them feel something, and there's a camp of people that don't like it because it makes them feel themselves.
Yes.
Right? And so that is why it is polarizing. And that's why I like that Mike has always been okay with being polarizing. You know, it's... I mean, I don't know, like maybe he's like, could have like his mental health could have suffered from this fact. Like I totally see that in myself as well, where like it's difficult to get along with people that react negatively to your work, right?
Yeah.
So
this brings me to something I'll tell you in a second when we stop this. An idea I have for a new review and way of a new format for writing about music. But it sounds strange, but I'm grateful if someone does something which I really struggle with. But it engages me nonetheless.
Yes, yes.
And what you just said, this is also a quote from Changeling. A lot of music is very much from the dimension of humans, Mike writes, human civilization. Perhaps that's why some groups of people absolutely hate my music. It's weird when I see such a negative reaction, the indignation. It's not like, that's not my cup of tea. It's really, turn it off. It worries me and bothers me. Turn it off. I think some people find it threatening, but I accept that now. It used to worry me and upset me, but it doesn't bother me these days.
Incredible. Thanks for finding that quote. Amazing. Yeah, gives me goosebumps. Like, and you see, he really, and I was always wondering that, like, in how conscious, let's say, did he over the years become of what he's actually, what this material is that he's working with in this world, which is music, which is sound, and like to understand how it psychologically affects oneself and people around you, and I guess that's enough, right?
Yeah, and it's really interesting to. I mean, we've just 4 albums to go, and it's like this big journey. But I think these 4 albums stretch out over a longer time period.
Yes.
And so that's we're entering a final stretch, and it's probably 4 albums, like with minimal exception, which many people won't even know.
Yes.
But I think it's another interesting episode. If he didn't want to call it a chapter, that's fine. But it's another episode in his life, and I think it's going to be very interesting from here on forward.
Absolutely, and we're going to have to go to the killing fields.
Yes.
And then we will make a plan how to go through live recordings, official live recordings, which there are only few. And we're going to go through, I will want to suggest we go do the singles also, especially like all the singles, but especially the 80s, where the singles that had never appeared on any other medium. Yes, okay, home stretch. Thanks for listening, and see you again next time. And please subscribe. Tell other Oldfield fans about this. We were still like very low with the. I mean, it's okay. It's quite a little bit of a success, but let's bring this out to all the other Oldfield fans. Thank you so much. Talk next time.
See you then. Bye bye.